You don't need a mansion or a Hollywood name to leave behind a story that's more than just fame.
Me to need a will, just a family, or a cat plotting world domination. Welcome to Celebrity Estate Chaos, where we prove a lot of things. Like how estate chaos isn't just for millionaires with private islands, anyone with stuff, relatives, or that one weird collection you think nobody's fighting over. And chances are, they will.
Okay, picture this. You're relaxing, maybe doing a bit of online shopping. Let's say you're, searching for the ultimate comfy pajama pants. You're just in your zone, right? But meanwhile, maybe in another room or even right there in your kitchen, there's a device you hardly ever think about, something that's meant to be helpful. But it might be quietly doing something a bit iffy, maybe connecting somewhere weird, sending off data you didn't know it had, or like opening a tiny little crack in your home network security, all while you're deciding between cotton and fleece. So yeah, this deep dive is all about pulling back the curtain on those sort of hidden tech risks, the ones lurking in everyday things, in our homes, our cars even, stuff most people really don't see as a security problem. And we're basing this exploration on some really interesting source material. A listener sent over insights from articles and books by Tina Jin, like Crypto 101, and from hacked cars to cyber attacks.
Right. And our mission here is pretty straightforward. We're going to take all this information and really unpack what it tells us about these vulnerabilities that honestly fly under the radar for most people. We want to help you understand why these seemingly innocent gadgets could actually pose a risk, and maybe more importantly, what practical things you can actually do about it without getting totally overwhelmed. So let's dig in.
Okay, let's unpack it. The first big idea the sources really hammer home is, well, it sounds simple, but
yeah.
So many of these smart devices we have now, thermostats, light bulbs, vacuums, even, yes, the fridge, they're basically just small computers.
Exactly. They're not just simple appliances anymore. They run software, code that tells them what to do. They hook up to your Wi-Fi. Often they're talking to servers out on the internet. And because they've got software and network connections, well, they're vulnerable, just like your laptop or your phone.
If there's software, there can be bugs.
Right. And if it connects to the network, it can potentially be targeted by cybercriminals. It's that simple, really.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting and kind of eye-opening reading through this material. Let's start with maybe the most surprising one they mentioned, the smart fridge. You think, okay, it keeps food cold, maybe shows photos, but the sources bring up that specific case from 2014.
Oh, yeah, that incident. It's a classic example now.
Yeah.
A smart fridge was actually hacked and used as part of this huge spam email attack. It got roped into what's called a botnet, basically a network of hijacked devices, and ended up sending out, get this, over 750,000 malicious emails. It wasn't just theory, it actually happened.
A fridge sending spam. How is that even possible? The sources seem to point to a few key things.
Well, yeah, first, it connects to Wi-Fi. Second, it runs software firmware, technically that people almost never think about updating.
Right, who updates their fridge?
Exactly, and they often ship with really easy default passwords, admin, password, that kind of thing, which people don't change. Plus, that firmware might have old, unpatched security holes from years ago. And the risks go beyond just being part of a botnet. A lot of these fridges, they collect data. What you buy, how often you open the door, and that data gets sent off, sometimes to third parties or cloud platforms, which, raises privacy questions.
Okay, so data collection is one thing. What else?
Well, some have cameras inside, right?
Yeah.
Supposedly, so you can check your milk from the store. But if someone hacks it...
That's a camera inside your kitchen. Yikes.
Yep. And the touchscreens. If compromised, they could potentially show fake login pages, phishing or run bad apps. And maybe one of the most worrying details from some sources, finding devices that store things like your Wi-Fi password internally in plain text, just sitting there unencrypted.
Okay, so convenience features turning into potential security weak points. What about smart TVs? The sources mention those too, especially the ones with always-on voice features.
Ah, yes, the voice control. The material suggests that some models, even when the screen is off, might be recording snippets of conversation around them and sending that audio back to the manufacturer or maybe third parties, often framed as data analysis to improve the service, but
it means your private living room conversations could be ending up somewhere else.
Precisely. It's a privacy concern that's easy to miss. And then you've got robot vacuums. They seem harmless, just cleaning the floor.
Yeah, what's the risk there?
Well, they map your home, right, to navigate efficiently.
Yeah.
The sources point out these vacuums create incredibly detailed floor plans, and usually those maps get uploaded to the cloud. Now, that data could potentially be sold or leaked in a breach or hacked directly.
So someone could get a literal blueprint of my house for my vacuum cleaner.
Exactly. Layout, maybe even figuring out where valuable stuff might be based on room use, identifying doors, windows. It's quite detailed information.
That's unexpected. Okay, smart doorbells are another one mentioned, useful for security, seeing who's there, but
But they can also be a target. Hackers might exploit them to figure out your family's schedule when you come and go. They could potentially send fake notifications, maybe record audio without you knowing, or even disable the doorbell right before trying to break in.
okay, that's concerning. And printers. You wouldn't think of a printer as a security risk.
You wouldn't, but the sources highlight Wi-Fi connected printers as a surprisingly common weak spot, like a backdoor into your network. Hackers can target vulnerabilities in the printer's own software, the firmware, which, again, almost nobody updates to gain a foothold.
And from the printer, they could potentially access other things on the network.
Potentially, yeah. Files on your computers, sensitive documents may be queued up to print. It's like leaving a side door unlocked that you forgot even existed.
A printer is a backdoor. That definitely wasn't on my radar before reading this. And the sources say it's not just these few examples, right?
Mhm.
Thermostats, speakers, light bulbs.
Pretty much anything smart and connected to your Wi-Fi. The big takeaway is clear. Just because it's automated or convenient doesn't mean it's secure. Every connected device is a potential entry point.
Which brings us to the next crucial point the sources explore. How does hacking one simple device, like that printer or the fridge, actually turn into a bigger problem?
Right, because compromising the fridge itself isn't usually the end goal. It's about what comes next. The sources talk about this concept of lateral movement. Basically, once a hacker gets inside through one weak device, they can try to crawl across your home network from there.
Okay, so they're in through the smart light bulb, let's say. What could they do once they're inside the network itself?
Well, the potential consequences laid out are pretty serious. They could, for instance, monitor your routines just by watching device activity when lights go on, off, thermostat changes, fridge openings.
Building a picture of when you're home or away.
Exactly. They could try to sniff out saved passwords or access files on your main computers or phones if they're on the same network. Yeah, or view live feeds from connected security cameras. If you do banking or shopping online from that network, your financial details could be exposed.
And things like smart speakers. Could they access connected accounts?
Potentially, yes, like accessing your Amazon account if it's linked. And let's not forget the fridge example, using your devices collectively in these large-scale botnet attacks or DDoS attacks to take down websites.
That really connects the dots. It's not just the one device, it's the gateway. And thinking about you, the listener, if you work from home.
That's a huge point the sources make. A compromised smart plug could potentially become a backdoor into your company's network, exposing sensitive business data.
Or if you're into crypto.
Your crypto wallet, if it's accessible from the same compromised home network, could definitely be at risk. It puts everything on that network in potential danger.
So why are these devices often so vulnerable in the first place? What do the sources say about the manufacturers?
Well, a recurring theme is that manufacturers often prioritize getting the product to market quickly, focusing on features and convenience, sometimes over robust security. This leads to really common weaknesses like shipping with those easy default passwords we mentioned, not providing easy firmware updates, or sometimes using weak or even no encryption when the device sends data.
The data is just sent out openly.
In some cases, yes, using older unencrypted protocols like HTTP, it's like sending sensitive info on a postcard. Plus, there's generally a lack of strong enforced security regulations for this whole Internet of Things space. And interestingly, security really varies. It's not always the big, expensive brands that are best. Sometimes, the sources note, a simpler, cheaper device might actually be safer because it has fewer complex features, a smaller attack surface for hackers to target.
That's really counterintuitive, the idea that cheaper could sometimes be safer here.
Oh.
Okay, let's shift focus slightly. It's not just our homes anymore, right? The sources talk about cars too.
Absolutely. Modern cars are packed with tech. They're essentially computers on wheels now. You've got entertainment systems, GPS, remote apps, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth.
And those connections can be vulnerabilities.
They can be. The sources discuss documented cases where hackers have managed to exploit weaknesses, often in Bluetooth or Wi-Fi systems, to gain some level of control. Things like tracking the car's location, disabling certain features remotely, or in more extreme demonstrations, even affecting things like steering or brakes, though that's much harder.
That is quite unsettling.
Yeah.
Okay, so given all this, the fridge, the vacuum, the car, what can people actually do? The sources aren't saying throw everything out, right? They offer practical advice.
Definitely not about ditching tech. It's more about being aware and taking some sensible precautions, being smarter than your tech, essentially.
So what are the key steps?
Okay, number one, absolutely crucial. Change the default passwords on everything smart you bring into your home immediately.
Don't leave it as admin password.
Please don't. It's like leaving your front door wide open. Second, update the firmware regularly. Check for updates on your TV, your router, your printer. Those updates often patch known security holes that hackers are actively looking for. Make it part of your routine. Maybe check every few months.
Okay, passwords, updates, what else?
Use a guest Wi-Fi network if your router supports it. This is a really effective one.
How does that help?
You basically create a separate network just for your smart devices, the fridge, the TV, the smart plugs, all that stuff. Keep them isolated from your main network, where your important computers and phones live. That way, if one smart device does get compromised, it's much harder for an attacker to jump over to your main network and access your sensitive data. It contains the potential damage.
Like putting them in a digital quarantine zone.
Makes sense. Exactly. Another tip. Disable features you don't actually use. If your TV has voice control you never use, or remote access you don't need, turn it off in the settings. Fewer active features mean fewer potential ways in for an attacker. It reduces that attack surface we mentioned.
Good point. Anything else on the practical side?
Yeah, try to occasionally monitor your network. Log into your router's admin page, check the manual for how, and look at the list of connected devices. See if anything looks weird or unfamiliar. Most smart devices won't tell you if someone logs in remotely, so checking the router is one way to potentially spot suspicious activity.
Okay, and for extra protection, especially maybe for work from home setups.
Consider using a good firewall, maybe beyond just the basic one in your router, and definitely think about using a VPN, a virtual private network, that encrypts your traffic, adding another strong layer of security. Taken together, these steps significantly lower your risk. And the sources really stress that just knowing these devices are computers, knowing they can be vulnerable, is a huge first step. It's a kind of essential awareness now.
And it's worth remembering, as the sources point out, your standard home insurance probably won't cover you if your smart coffee maker gets hacked and causes problems.
That's usually the case, yeah. So, summing up what we've learned from these sources, the key insight is that pretty much any device you connect to your network, no matter how simple it seems, is a potential doorway for hackers. Understanding that risk and taking even just a few of these practical steps we've discussed is really the foundation for protecting yourself in this connected world.
Which leaves us with maybe a slightly unsettling thought to chew on. Next time you're, scrolling for those perfect pajama pants and maybe your smart fridge pings you about leftovers, just take a second and ask yourself, is my home really getting smarter? Or is it just becoming easier for someone else to get in? Or maybe, as one source puts it, is your fridge helping you chill? Or potentially helping someone hack your bank account? If this has got you thinking and you want to dive deeper into protecting yourself, the source material we looked at offers a lot more detail. Check out Tina Ginn's books, Crypto 101 and From Hack Cars to Cyber Attacks. They're great resources for more practical tips on staying safer out there.
That's a wrap for today's chaos. If you learned something, laughed a little, or now feel slightly more prepared for life's curveballs, we've done our job. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media. Catch us on Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere podcasts make you rethink your to-do list. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, if it's important and unexpected, we probably cover it. Stay safe, stay curious, and we'll see you next time.